The final report into contract corruption allegations against the province and Alberta Health Services has been released Friday. And while a former judge has found no evidence of wrongdoing from the Premier or ministers, he says his investigative powers were limited.
Well, I hope in your reporting you point out that it's AHS decision makers who have been responsible for the contract negotiations and will be responsible for any settlement, because the Wyant report made it very clear that there was no wrongdoing on the part of elected officials, any of their staff, or any of the public servants who were involved in this.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says her government is vindicated following the investigation. Manitoba Judge Raymond Wyant tasked earlier this year with investigating allegations into Alberta Health Services contract corruption in procuring children's pain medication during the shortage in 2023, as well as government contracts for private chartered surgical facilities. Wyant saying he did find evidence of a real or perceived conflict of interest with two AHS staff and that it was widely known. The report comes as the former CEO of Alberta Health Services, Anthana Mentzalopoulos, has filed a $1.7 million wrongful dismissal suit against the province earlier this year, alleging she was fired for investigating the claims. That suit still before the court. In a statement to City News, Mentzalopoulos thanking Wyant for his work, but also noting the scope of the investigation was limited because it wasn't a public inquiry, adding in part, quote, "Within those limits, the report nevertheless identifies many of the same concerns and issues that I was attempting to investigate and address as CEO, and I am thankful for his excellent work." In the report, Wyant saying he interviewed 26 people for the investigation, but because it wasn't a public inquiry, people weren't compelled to answer questions. Premier Smith says the blame lies with AHS and reinforces her government's decision to split up the province's healthcare provider.
And in fact, it vindicates our decision to move the procurement function into Acute Care Alberta, which is what we're going to do. And so for future contracts, that will be negotiated through Acute Care Alberta, and AHS will no longer have the authority to do that.
But healthcare law experts tell me the Premier shouldn't be celebrating the report.
You know, AHS is a public body. It's under significant control by the government. And ultimately, when it comes to the stewardship of tax dollars, the buck stops with government. And there was not good stewardship of tax dollars here. The report expresses concerns with money wasted to procure Tylenol from Turkey, and also talks about the different rates at which some of the chartered surgical facilities are paid, and suggests there may be value issues.
Alberta's opposition New Democrats say nothing less than a public inquiry will provide answers.
Why does the UCP seem determined at every step to provide a lack of transparency, to not answer the questions that are important to Albertans, and to hide the role that they may play in influencing the outcome of these investigations, but also into the actions of AHS officials when these contracts were assigned? They've been very clear that they do not want any light to be shed on that.
The report also making 18 recommendations around contract procurement, conflicts of interest, and codes of conduct. Premier Smith says she's tasking the head of her public service to implement the recommendations. Reporting from Edmonton, Darcy Ropchan, City News.